Raiden Nash never expected his astronomical research to lead him to an alien in his bedroom, but life had a way of defying expectations. The soft violet glow emanating from beneath his bed at 3 a.m. was his first clue that this night would be different from all others. As head researcher at the Mountain View Observatory, Raiden had spent countless nights studying distant stars, searching for signs of extraterrestrial life. The irony wasn't lost on him that potential proof had literally shown up under his bed. The strange luminescence pulsed rhythmically, accompanied by what sounded like whispered calculations in an unfamiliar language. "Hello?" he called out, immediately questioning the wisdom of addressing an unknown entity in his bedroom. "I can see your light." The whispering ceased. After a moment's silence, a melodic voice responded, "Your observational skills are adequate, though announcing your awareness of an unknown presence seems tactically unsound." A figure emerged with fluid grace, tall, humanoid, but distinctly alien. Her skin shifted through shades of violet and indigo, patterns rippling across her surface like the northern lights. Instead of hair, delicate tendrils that resembled fiber optic cables cascaded down her back, each one glowing faintly. Her eyes were the most striking feature, large, iridescent orbs that seemed to contain swirling galaxies. "I am Vena, xenosociologist from the Celestial Academy of Sciences," she announced, maintaining a careful distance. "You are Raiden Nash, and you present a fascinating anomaly in my research." Raiden gripped his bedpost, steadying himself. "I'm an anomaly?" "You're an alien in my bedroom." "Technically, I'm an alien anthropologist in your bedroom," Vena corrected, producing a holographic tablet. "And you, Dr. Nash, are the first human I've observed who spends more time studying the stars than engaging in typical human mating behaviors. Your dedication to science mirrors our own species, yet your social isolation patterns are extreme even by our standards. You've been studying me?" Raiden's scientific mind began pushing past his initial shock. "For how long?" "Approximately 3 lunar cycles," she replied, scrolling through her data. "Your predictable routine made observation simple, though I must admit, your recent discovery of the gravitational anomaly in the Carina Nebula was impressive. Our scientists only documented that phenomenon last stellar cycle." Raiden's eyes widened. "You know about my research? Wait, you've confirmed there are gravitational anomalies in Carina? My colleagues think I'm chasing shadows." "Your methodology was sound," Vena said, her skin brightening with what appeared to be enthusiasm. "Though your instruments are charmingly primitive. However, I'm not here to discuss astrophysics. I'm studying human relationship dynamics, and you represent an intriguing outlier." "So you decided to hide under my bed?" Raiden couldn't help but smile at the absurdity. "Didn't your advanced species develop a better observation method?" "Direct observation provides the most accurate data," Vena stated matter-of-factly. "Though I admit, the underbed positioning was not ideal. Your dust accumulation is concerning." Before Raiden could defend his housekeeping, a high-pitched tone emerged from one of Vena's devices. Her luminescence dimmed dramatically, and her expression shifted to what Raiden interpreted as alarm. "We have a problem," she said, her melodic voice tightening. "My presence has been detected by unauthorized observers." This was not part of the research protocol. "What unauthorized observers?" Raiden moved closer, scientists' curiosity overwhelming caution. "Other aliens? There are factions within our society who believe humanity isn't ready for contact," Vena explained quickly, her hands dancing over multiple holographic displays. "My research project is not exactly sanctioned by the High Council." A deep thrumming began to vibrate through the house. Raiden's digital clock flickered, then died. The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. "They're initiating a containment protocol," Vena's skin pulsed with rapid patterns. "They'll attempt to erase all evidence of contact, including any humans who've been exposed." She turned to Raiden, her galaxy eyes intense. "I have 2 options, I can surrender and allow them to wipe your memory, or... Raiden prompted, his heart racing. Or you can trust me, and we can show them why humanity deserves to join the galactic community. She extended her hand, which glowed with inner light. But we'll have to break several laws of both our species to do it. Raiden looked at her offered hand, then at the life he'd built, his research, his solitary existence, his endless search for proof of life beyond Earth. In that moment, the choice was surprisingly simple. I've already published a paper about impossible gravitational anomalies, he said, reaching for her hand. What's a few broken laws between scientists? Vena's skin brightened with what might have been relief or amusement. Fascinating. You've just proven my thesis about human impulse control being inversely proportional to scientific curiosity. The thrumming grew louder, and shadows began gathering at the windows. Vena pulled Raiden close, her alien technology humming to life around them. Hold tight, Dr. Nash. Your crash course in xenosociology is about to get very practical. As reality began to blur around them, Raiden had one last coherent thought: his colleagues at the observatory were never going to believe this. Then again, maybe that had been the problem all along: too much belief in limitations, not enough trust in the impossible. The world dissolved in a flash of violet light, and Raiden Nash's ordinary life vanished with it, replaced by something far more extraordinary than he'd ever dared to imagine in all his nights of stargazing. The teleportation left Raiden feeling like his atoms had been scrambled and reassembled slightly out of order. He found himself in what appeared to be a laboratory, though calling it that felt like calling a quantum computer a calculator. Crystalline structures pulsed with living light, and holographic displays floated everywhere, showing data in scripts that made his eyes hurt to look at. "Welcome to my research vessel," Vena said, her skin shifting to calmer blues as she moved through the space with practiced ease. "It's currently cloaked in high orbit. I apologize for the abrupt departure, but the containment division doesn't typically announce their arrivals politely." "This is incredible," Raiden breathed, trying to take in everything at once. "Your technology, wait, did you say high orbit? We're in space?" "Technically, we're in a pocket of altered spacetime within a vessel that's in orbit," Vena corrected, manipulating several floating displays. "The physics would be easier to explain if your species had discovered quantum folding yet." Before Raiden could ask about quantum folding, a deep resonance shook the laboratory. Vena's skin flashed with alarmed patterns. "They're scanning for us," she explained, her fingers dancing through holographic interfaces. "The containment division has deployed 3 pursuit vessels. This complicates things. What exactly are we dealing with?" Raiden asked, his scientific mind already working to categorize and understand the threat. "And why is your research unauthorized in the first place?" Vena's luminescence dimmed slightly. "My species has strict protocols about contact with developing civilizations. Earth is classified as a Level 2 pre-contact society, technically advanced enough to understand the universe's basic principles, but not yet unified or advanced enough for official diplomatic relations." "But you disagreed with that classification?" "I believe it's fundamentally flawed," Vena said, her skin rippling with passionate colors. "Your species' scientific progress is remarkable given your limitations. More importantly, your capacity for adaptation and emotional connection is unprecedented. My research suggests humans are far more ready for contact than the Council believes." Another tremor shook the vessel. Vena's displays filled with warning symbols. "They're deploying temporal nets," she muttered. "Standard containment procedure: trap the vessel in a time dilation field, then methodically erase all evidence of contact." "Can we fight back?" Raiden asked, then immediately felt foolish. What could he possibly contribute against advanced alien technology? Vena turned to him, her galaxy eyes sparkling with what might have been amusement. "Actually, yes. Your presence gives us an advantage they won't expect. The containment protocols are designed to handle rogue researchers, not human-alien cooperation. She gestured at one of the crystal consoles. Your work on gravitational anomalies, it wasn't just accurate, it was innovative. You approached the problem from an angle our scientists hadn't considered. We need that kind of lateral thinking right now. Raiden moved to the console, studying the alien displays. To his surprise, the underlying principles weren't entirely foreign. Physics was physics, even with extraordinarily advanced technology. These temporal nets, he said slowly, they work by creating localized time distortions? Correct. They'll try to trap us in a bubble of slowed time, then board in. What if we inverted the field? Raiden interrupted, excitement building as the idea took shape. Use their own temporal distortion against them? Vena's skin blazed with brilliant patterns. Theoretically possible, but the energy requirements would be met by the gravitational potential energy of our orbit, Raiden finished. Like a slingshot effect, but with time instead of space. That's brilliant, Vena said, her voice carrying a new tone he couldn't quite identify. And completely insane. The calculations would have to be perfect. Good thing you have two scientists on board, Raiden grinned, already working through the equations in his head. They worked together in a blur of calculations and adjustments, Vena's advanced knowledge merging seamlessly with Raiden's unconventional approach. The pursuit vessels drew closer, their temporal nets beginning to distort space around the laboratory. Ready? Vena asked, her hand poised over the final control. About as ready as anyone can be to attempt time-based warfare, Raiden replied. Though I have to ask, if this works, what then? We can't run forever. No, Vena agreed, her skin pulsing with complex patterns. But we can prove a point. Your help here, your ability to understand and adapt to completely alien concepts, it proves everything my research suggested about human potential. The temporal nets closed in, reality beginning to warp around them. Vena's hand found Raiden's, her touch sending a strange but not unpleasant tingle through his arm. Besides, she added, her galaxy eyes meeting his, I still haven't completed my study of human relationship dynamics. It would be unscientific to leave the research unfinished. Before Raiden could process that statement, she activated their countermeasure. The world twisted inside out as their inverted temporal field collided with the containment nets. Physics itself seemed to hold its breath for a moment. Then everything exploded in a cascade of time and light, and the real adventure began. The temporal explosion scattered the pursuit vessels across different time streams, but it also left Vena's research vessel drifting in an unfamiliar sector of space. The laboratory's crystalline structures hummed with diminished energy, their usual brilliant glow reduced to a faint shimmer. Status report? Raiden asked, picking himself up from the floor where the temporal shockwave had thrown him. We're alive, Vena replied, her skin cycling through diagnostic patterns. And still in the same dimension, which is better than I expected. However, she gestured at the holographic displays, which showed cascading system failures. We've burned out most of our quantum cores. Basic life support and cloaking remain functional, but navigation and defensive systems are offline. Raiden moved to examine the damaged systems, already finding himself surprisingly comfortable with the alien technology. Can we repair them? Not without materials from a proper space dock, Vena's luminescence dimmed. And every celestial facility will be watching for us now. The containment division doesn't take kindly to being outsmarted by a primitive species. Their loss, Raiden said, studying the quantum core schematics. Though I have to ask, was this worth it? Risking everything for your research? Vena's skin rippled with complex emotions. My research isn't just about understanding human mating habits, Raiden. It's about proving that artificial barriers between species are holding back both our civilizations. Look at what we just accomplished together, combining your intuitive grasp of physics with my technical knowledge. That's exactly what I've been trying to prove is possible. Speaking of mating habits, Raiden said, trying to keep his tone light despite his racing heart, is that why you chose to study me? Because I was alone? Initially, yes, Vena admitted, her galaxy eyes swirling with new patterns. Your isolation made observation easier. But as I studied you, I realized you weren't alone by choice or social deficiency. You were alone because you were looking beyond the horizons others accepted. Just like me. Before Raiden could respond, the ship's sensors blared a warning. 3 more vessels had appeared, their energy signatures matching containment division protocols. They're tracking our temporal wake, Vena's fingers danced through emergency protocols. We need to move, but without the quantum cores. Wait, Raiden interrupted, an idea forming. You said we still have cloaking. What powers that system? A modified zero-point energy matrix, but it's not powerful enough to. Vena stopped, her skin brightening as she followed his thought process. You want to redirect the cloaking field's energy signature? If we can't run or hide, maybe we can do both at once, Raiden explained, already making calculations. Use the zero-point energy to create a series of ghost signatures, like quantum echoes. They'll have to split their forces to chase each one. That's incredibly risky, Vena said, but her skin was pulsing with excited patterns. If we make even one miscalculation in the quantum harmonics, then we'll be scattered across multiple dimensions? Raiden finished. Still better odds than facing 3 containment vessels with no defenses. Besides, he added with a smile, isn't pushing boundaries what got us both into this situation? Vena's luminescence brightened, and Raiden was starting to recognize this particular pattern. It appeared when she was pleased or amused. Your species' capacity for finding unconventional solutions continues to fascinate me. Though I'm beginning to suspect you might be an outlier in more ways than I initially documented. They worked quickly, reconfiguring the cloaking system to create multiple quantum echoes of their vessel. As they finished the final adjustments, Vena suddenly placed her hand over Raiden's. There's something else you should know, she said, her voice carrying a new harmonics he hadn't heard before. My research has another component I haven't shared. The High Council believes humans are too emotionally volatile for safe contact, that your feelings make you unpredictable and dangerous. But I've observed something different. Your emotions don't weaken your science, they strengthen it. They drive you to look deeper, think broader, try harder. The pursuing vessels were closing in. Alarms flashed across the holographic displays. But in that moment, looking into Vena's galaxy eyes, Raiden felt strangely calm. Is that your scientific observation, he asked softly, or a personal one? Both, she admitted, her skin cascading with new patterns he'd never seen before. Which makes me question my own objectivity as a researcher. Another thing I'll have to include in my final report, assuming we survive long enough to file one. The ship's sensors screamed a proximity warning. The containment vessels had them surrounded. Ready to test your quantum echo theory? Vena asked, her hand still covering his on the controls. Ready to make history, Raiden replied. One way or another. They activated the modified cloaking field together. Reality fractured around them into a kaleidoscope of possibilities, each one carrying a piece of their vessel's quantum signature in a different direction. As space itself seemed to multiply and divide around them, Raiden realized he'd never felt more alive, or more certain that he was exactly where he needed to be. Science had always been his life's passion. But now, watching Vena's skin shimmer with determination in something else he was beginning to recognize, he wondered if he'd finally found something worth matching it. The quantum echo gambit worked better than either of them had anticipated, perhaps too well. Their vessel now existed in a state of quantum superposition, simultaneously present in multiple probability streams. The pursuing containment ships scattered, each chasing a different echo of their signature across the star systems. Fascinating, Venna murmured, her skin displaying complex interference patterns that matched the quantum fluctuations around them. We've achieved a stable probability matrix. Your theory was correct, but this presents an unexpected complication. We can't stay in quantum flux forever, Ryden guessed, watching the holographic displays show their fractured existence across spacetime. The energy requirements alone would. We'll tear the ship apart in approximately 43 minutes, Venna confirmed. We need to collapse our quantum state into a single reality stream, but the moment we do, the containment division will know exactly where we are, Ryden finished. He'd grown surprisingly adept at following her technical explanations. So we need to make it count. Choose the right reality. Venna's luminescence pulsed with what he now recognized as concern. There's more. The quantum fluctuations are affecting the barrier between our species' natural biological frequencies. The longer we stay in this state, the more our molecular structures begin to harmonize. As if to demonstrate her point, Ryden noticed his hand had taken on a faint luminescence of its own where it rested near hers on the control panel. The sight was both terrifying and oddly beautiful. Is that dangerous? He asked, though he found himself more curious than afraid. Unknown, Venna admitted. No human has ever been exposed to quantum resonance with a celestial before. My research suggested our species might be compatible on a fundamental level, but this is unprecedented. The ship shuddered as another wave of quantum instability washed through it. Ryden steadied himself against a crystal column, noticing how it seemed to respond to his touch now, dimly mirroring Venna's patterns. The High Council was right about one thing, Venna said, her galaxy eyes fixed on the phenomenon. Contact between our species changes both of us. But they never considered it might change us for the better. We need to show them, Ryden said suddenly, an idea taking shape. Not just run or hide, prove your research was right. Show them what happens when our species truly cooperate. How? The Council won't even allow humans to, Venna stopped, her skin flaring with realization. Unless we make it impossible for them to deny. If we could stabilize this quantum resonance, document the molecular harmonization. Create a bridge between our species that can't be ignored, Ryden nodded, excitement building. But we'd have to find a way to survive the collapse of our quantum state first. Actually, Venna's skin rippled with complex calculations, we might be able to use the quantum resonance itself. If we time the reality collapse precisely with the peak of our molecular harmonization, the quantum feedback could create a permanent link, Ryden continued, following her logic. Like a stable wormhole between our species' natural frequencies. It's never been done, Venna warned, though her skin was pulsing with barely contained enthusiasm. The energy requirements would be astronomical. We'd need perfect synchronization, and even then. The odds are terrible, Ryden agreed, then smiled. But isn't that exactly what your research is about? Proving that impossible things become possible when different perspectives combine? Venna's luminescence brightened until she nearly outshone the ship's crystals. You continue to exceed every parameter of my study, Dr. Nash. Speaking of your study, Ryden said, his heart racing as he took a chance, I think your research on human relationship dynamics might be missing some crucial data points. Oh? Venna's skin rippled with interest. What data points would those be? Instead of answering, Ryden closed the distance between them. The quantum resonance made his skin tingle where it nearly touched hers. Some things are better demonstrated than explained. For science, of course. Of course, Venna agreed, her galaxy eyes swirling with emotions that transcended any known spectrum. Though I should warn you, celestial molecular resonance can have unexpected effects on human physiology. I'm willing to risk it in the name of research, Ryden said softly. Are you? The ship's warnings about quantum instability faded into background noise as they came together, their resonating frequencies creating patterns of light that would have revolutionized several fields of physics if anyone had been paying attention to the instruments. But in that moment, even two scientists had more important things to focus on than data collection. The universe, it seemed, had its own plans for their research project, plans that would either destroy them both or change everything they thought they knew about the boundaries between species. They had 38 minutes until quantum collapse forced them to find out which. The quantum collapse was approaching critical threshold and the containment division's flagship emerged from hyperspace. It dwarfed their research vessel, its imposing crystalline structure designed to project authority across the galaxy. On the holographic displays, dozens of smaller ships converged on their position, drawn by the unprecedented energy signatures of their quantum resonance. "They're early," Vena observed, her skin patterns synchronizing with the ship's pulsing warning lights. The quantum harmonization between them had progressed to the point where Ryden could almost understand the emotional mathematics in her luminescence. "The resonance must have attracted more attention than we calculated." "Good," Ryden said, his own skin now carrying a faint echo of her bioluminescence. "We needed an audience anyway." The ship's comm system crackled to life with a transmission from the flagship. A stern voice spoke in the musical language Ryden had first heard under his bed, but to his surprise, he could now understand it. "Researcher Vena," the voice declared, "you stand accused of unauthorized contact with a pre-emergent species, violation of temporal protocols, and reckless endangerment of the universal order. Surrender immediately for containment and processing." Vena's response carried harmonics of both challenge and triumph. "Honored Council, I formally request an emergency session to present new evidence regarding humanity's readiness for contact." "Evidence is irrelevant," the voice dismissed. "The humans' presence here only proves their species' disregard for proper procedures." "Actually," Ryden stepped forward, his voice carrying unusual resonance from their quantum link, "it proves something else entirely. Something your procedures never considered possible." He reached for Vena's hand, their contact creating a brilliant display of quantum harmonics that lit up every sensor in the sector. Their molecular frequencies, human and celestial, had achieved perfect synchronization. "Impossible," the council voice faltered. "Our species' base frequencies are incompatible. The energy requirements for such harmonization would require cooperation beyond anything your models predicted," Vena finished. "Exactly as my research suggested. Humanity isn't just ready for contact, they're essential to the next stage of universal evolution." The quantum countdown reached critical. Ryden and Vena's combined consciousness interfaced directly with the ship's systems, guiding the reality collapse with precision that neither species could have achieved alone. Space-time itself seemed to hold its breath. "Last chance to back out," Ryden sent through their link. "We might not survive this." Vena's response carried both amusement and affection. "Worried about skewing my research data? Worried about not being around to read the final paper?" Their shared laughter rippled through the quantum field as they initiated the collapse sequence. Reality twisted, folded, and reformed around them. The ship's systems screamed as energy levels exceeded every known limit. When the quantum storm cleared, their vessel floated intact in normal space. But they had changed. The resonance between them had stabilized into something new, not quite human, not quite celestial, but a bridge between both. The council ship sensors went wild trying to classify their new state of being. Ryden could feel their confusion and shock rippling through space. "Honored Council," Vena addressed them formally, her skin patterns now carrying traces of human DNA sequences, "I present my completed research. The data speaks for itself. As does the living proof," Ryden added, his now luminescent hand entwined with hers. The silence that followed stretched across the star systems. Finally, the council voice returned, carrying new harmonics of uncertainty and wonder. "Your research methods were unorthodox, Researcher Vena. And the implications of your findings are disturbing to many of our fundamental assumptions. Truth often is, Venna replied. We will require time to process this development. And to establish new protocols for this unprecedented situation. Ryden grinned. Take all the time you need. We've got some research of our own to continue. Indeed, Venna's skin rippled with patterns that made Ryden's heart race. Our preliminary results suggest the need for extensive further study. The Council ships maintained their position, but no containment fields activated. No temporal nets deployed. They simply watched, their sensors recording everything, as humanity's first officially unofficial ambassador and his celestial researcher began writing a new chapter in universal history. Back in the laboratory, surrounded by still-smoking crystals and quantum residue, Ryden turned to Venna. So, about that paper on human mating habits. Oh, that's going to need significant revision, she replied, her galaxy eyes sparkling with mischief. We've completely rewritten the parameters of interspecies relationships. Sounds like we need to run more experiments. For science, of course. Of course, Venna agreed, her luminescence synchronizing with his newly quantum-enhanced biology. Though I should warn you, this level of research could take lifetimes. I can think of worse ways to spend eternity, Ryden said, pulling her close as their quantum resonance created new constellations of possibility around them. Sometimes, the most profound scientific discoveries happened in the most unexpected places. Like under a bed in the middle of the night, when an alien researcher and a lonely astronomer proved that love, like science, knew no boundaries, not even between the stars.